So I was recently in a church, and I was preaching. It was 2 services on a Sunday morning, and I was getting ready, taking a shower, just getting ready for in the hotel room. And for the message I was speaking about was about keeping our fire going no matter what we're going through. So kind of like a perseverance, like we really need to have the fire of God in our life if we're going to make it through. And so for some reason, the story of the 3 little pigs came to mind. And I was just thinking about that, Nursery fable or whatever. And I was thinking about how it really kind of tied into my message, because it's like, the one had the brick house and it couldn't be blown over.
Okay, I can see the connection.
But I was like, I didn't think, well, that's the Lord speaking to me. It was just a silly thing. So I get to the church, didn't put it in my notes or anything because I wasn't intending on saying it. And during one of the services, like while I was speaking, like that came to mind really strong. And so I told the church, I said, I don't think I've ever, shared like this before. I said, I know this is going to sound silly, but I just want to share the story. So I told them, and it tied in really well, but it was the 3 little pigs in a sermon, So it we had a great service, everything, whatever. We closed out service. So we're at our product table afterwards, Brittany and I, and this woman comes up to me and she's crying. And she said, I got to tell you our story. She said, a couple of years ago, our family went through a tragedy with a tornado, and it destroyed our family business. And, it was a really hard time where our house got damaged and things. And she said, during that time in prayer, the Lord really comforted me. And it was with the story of the 3 little pigs. And she pulled out her phone and she said, I want you to read what God showed me during that time, that season. And I read it. And some of it was almost word for word what I had said from the pulpit. And she was just like, the Lord used you today to just show me that he's here with me, that he sees what we've walked through. And she said, I don't think I've ever heard anyone preach about the 3 little pigs. And I said, well, I can assure you, I never have done that. It probably never will. But it's just, I've thought about this ever since for weeks, like the intimacy of God, that he so wanted to talk to one woman out of, a couple hundred people.
Yes.
He wanted her so much to know that he was there with her, that it was him who had spoken to her about the 3 little pigs and all this stuff, that I'm in the shower getting ready and he puts it in the mind of this preacher. And I don't think this is the Holy Spirit. I'm thinking, Dustin, this is goofy. And then again, prompts me during the thing, gives me the boldness enough to just say, hey, this is going to sound silly, to share it, all because of just one woman that needed to hear that God was with her and that he loved her and her family. I mean, that's the God we serve. He's so personal, and so it was special. So I don't want to make a vow that I'll never use nursery rhymes in my sermons again, but most likely it'll never happen. But it just taught me to be like, I think a lot of times we hear from God, the Holy Spirit's trying to speak to us, and we write it off as, that's just me, it's just silly or whatever. And I wonder now, how many times has something silly like that happened in the past and I just dismissed it, and maybe God was trying to speak to somebody. So it's just, I'm learning on this process and this journey of ministry to try to be more aware of sometimes even the outlandish things or whatever, or situations that's just such an out of the ordinary experience that maybe God's trying to speak to me or trying to do something here. And so it's been, so the 3 little pigs, I'll never hear that nursery rhyme and not think of that woman who God reached out to, a few weeks ago in that church. So it's special.